Welcome back, everyone. Hearthstone Grandmasters for Americas continues with our second semifinal, our featured match of the day. Monsanto versus Purple. Winner of this guarantees a spot in Division A, and the loser will have to fight with a pool of killers to survive, and most likely will be either in the contention for the playoffs or just relegated. I mean, that's just kind of what the two options are. There's no neutral zone. You look at Grandmasters in 2019, there was a few slots in each division where nothing happened. You would not make playoffs, but you wouldn't get relegated. Your season just be over. Uh, in this case, if something happens for everybody, you either auto qualify for playoffs, auto relegate, or you play for a playoff bracket, or you play for a relegation bracket. And I think that makes it very exciting for everybody. Perhaps a little bit more stressful for the players who are in that relegation zone, just a little bit. And we'll see how that continues to develop because the round robin stage just starts this Friday. It's going to be really fun to watch, TJ.
It's going to be fun, yeah. It's every player will be doing something after the week 7 concludes, which is the last week of the regular season. So nobody can rest on their laurels and say, well, maybe I'll have a better performance in season 2. No, playing for playoffs or you're playing for relegation. That's just the name of it. And we're just going to straight up have more matches per weekend instead of the 13 that we have now. We're going to have 16 matches. And also, players that we're going to be broadcasting at every player at least once per weekend, which is also nice because there's been a couple players that have only seen the top 8 once, and there have been players that haven't been seen in the top 8 at all.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to see them finally play on stream.
Yeah, and I think that, as we get ready to go into the series, take a look at today's T-Mobile Dex Spotlight Galakrond Shaman. It's not exactly the same Galakrond Shaman as Nalgidon, but it's got a lot of similarities. And, Monsanto is going to be the player to focus on here because I can't really imagine Division A not including in Monsanto. He's been one of the most consistent players in Americas, one of the boldest players as well. I even think about the season where Monsanto chose to play Quest Warlock, and he lost spectacularly, but he took a pretty big risk there, and I love to see that. And he was winning a lot still. He was giving us fun interviews, and then we discovered his musical talent where he could shred electric guitars, which was also pretty dope. It just feels like Monsanto belongs in Division A, so to speak, but at the same time, you can make a case for any of these players, especially another player like Purple, right? He's a 2-time world championship qualifier. He's been an America's champion, and one of the longest storied histories in competitive Hearthstone dating back to 2015. How could you not include Division A with Purple? So this feels like a tough matchup because no matter what, it's going to be a bittersweet thing.
It is, yeah. And one player has to move on, and one player is going to be disappointingly seeded into Division B. But there can only be one. Yeah, and there can only be one. And also, unfortunately for PNC, who was on our graphic at the beginning of the show, slated Division A, whoever wins this will overtake him and pump him down to Division B. So there was actually once everything shook out, surprising amount of drama for our last few matches that did take place yesterday because of how the seeding ended up working out and how the tiebreakers ended up working out for the players that would earn 8 points. So what we're about to get into, you saw, I think, the decks that they are going to be playing in the first matchup, and Monsanto has been, I think, the only player, at least in Americas, that's left up Mage as the 4th deck instead of Hunter. He did it in all of his matches, or most of his matches, throughout his group stage. He also did it when he played against Purple in the Swiss rounds. So it just seems to be his consistent choice. He has a little bit more of an aggressive lineup, which means that obviously he thinks that he can capitalize on the Mage a little bit better than he can on Hunter, which, based on the stats, at least globally, Hunter has been performing better than Mage overall. In America's maybe not necessarily the case, but we haven't had a huge sample size of Mage games, so it's kind of hard to tell. So I wonder if this decision's going to pay off for him in the long run.
Yeah, and we'll see if this Mage can make a difference. So far, it has not. We've had a couple of mage games and like they got punished. So we shall see. Statistically, it hasn't been that great for Mage either. Mage is at a 46% win rate, losing the majority of matches against Druid. But it does have an even matchup right now against Shaman and Paladin. So it's pretty interesting to see. The rest of the stats, there's not much many games to go off of, so the sample size is pretty minimal. But in general, Mage doesn't have that many games compared to some of the other classes this weekend. So a lot of questions heading into it. And I'm sure that for a player like Purple too, I know that he's been focusing on his streams lately, climbing battleground ranks every day, very consistently. However, I do know that at his heart, he does love to compete. There's a reason why he's still playing Grandmasters, and he does really want to win. And he's going to start things off with his Paladin. He does have the Brazen Zealot curve. Yesterday, TJ, when we saw something like this, the Paladin steamrolled. Yeah.
It was against this matchup too, right? I think it was against this very matchup.
Evolve Galakron Shaman, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see if that happens again. Monsanto has a 1-drop with the Hungry Crab if he wants to hold on to it. There is a couple Murlocs in the deck for Purple, notably the Serfinley of the Sands. And Purple also has Imprisoned Sungill, which is delayed one, plus Murger McGurgle. There's actually quite a few. And obviously, Underlight Angling Rod. So it seems like Hungry Crab could be of use to him in the matchup, which, at the very least, to answer the Brazen Zealot that Purple looks like he's going to be playing on turn 1.
Who are we hitting today?
And
yeah.
This matchup did happen in the early Swiss rounds. Earlier this week when these players were playing out, Purple did win 3-1. Only one person beat Purple in the actual Swiss rounds, and that was Muzzy, who beat him in round 6. But Purple did finish overall as the first seed in Swiss at a 6-1 score. So if history's going to repeat itself, Monsanto's got his work cut out for him in this matchup.
Yes. So Monsanto taking this Brazen Zealot very seriously. This actually messes up a lot of his potential curve possibilities, but I mean, he knows. I'm sure he's well aware, and wow, what an opportunity for Purple. Had that Brazen Zealot not died, he would have picked up Hand of a Doll, gone for a buff, and potentially ran away with this game.
Yeah. That could have been disastrous. Well, this could be interesting for Monsanto. He could Hungry Crab his own Murloc to deny Purple's potential Hungry Crab onto his Murloc.
Sure. Anything
funny.
for a bit of tempo, huh?
Yep.
The light protects me.
And Purple with a very slow start after that very explosive potential with the Brazen Zealot. Not going to really do much here. However, Monsanto kind of gimped as well. Look at his next couple of turns here. This turn he's got Draconic Lackey or Hero Power. Next turn, if his opponent develops more to the board, he has Mogu Flesh Aper at best.
Oh, Twilight Drake helps fill that.
Yeah, that's a massive pickup for Monsanto. Not falling behind on the board versus the Paladin is super important for the Shaman, as you saw earlier. If you get ahead of the Paladin, then you're able to trade down every single time. And we're talking about how you're in a losing position if you have to summon totems to fight back against the Paladin on board.
Wow. This trade over the Divine Show and the Argent Squire actually ends up saving Monsanto a good amount of tempo here, because the Divine Show plus Hand of a Doll would have been able to get his Hungry Crab actually for free.
Right.
Purple choosing to go wide here and leave up more minions, which does mean that Mogu Flesh Shaper would be playable on 4, so that's a little risky. Because Mogu Flesh Shaper plus Mutate, I guess he has Libram of Justice if he needs to.
Yeah, that's exactly why I think Labor of Justice increases his options in case Monsanto has, like he said, like an ability to go really big onto the board with a mutate. It just makes sense, I think, given the context of his hand. Purple has minions that Monsanto can value trade right now. And, you know, we made jokes all weekend how this format feels closer to Arena than it does feel to Standard Constructed, because it feels like you have to really squeeze out value. You don't really get to rely on incredible power spikes like you do with the top-tier Constructed decks.
Yeah.
And it's resulted in making you evaluate whether or not you should be like always going face or always going for trades. And in Arena, you're trying to always get these incremental values because you don't have the guarantee of finishing off the game a lot of times. And you also don't know what to expect from your opponent, so you have to always kind of keep that in check. And it feels very similar to this, where like both players are trying to squeeze out value where they can.
And it's leading to board parity, essentially. As Purple has a slight lead, but it's nothing crazy. What it does allow is for him to almost for sure have a target for Pharaoh's Blessing next turn, which is a great card to kind of solidify a board lead. And Monsanto has to kind of make the decision here whether he just plays Twilight Drake or sets up this Bogspine Knuckles to set up for Desert Hare plus Flesh Shaper. But we can see that it's really just going to be Desert Hare because Pharaoh's Blessing not going to put an extra minion on the board and going to block this Bogspine Knuckles attack if Monsanto wants to use this Evolve. Oh, he's one. Is he one? Yeah, he'll be one off from Mogu Flesh Shaper.
Yeah.
With all this.
Yes. Not to mention that he has to swing into a 6-attack minion. So I think, yeah, if you're Monsanto, you don't go for the hair. You have to pick apart this, otherwise you will die. I like this. Good recognition of what's important in this matchup. You would miss out the Desert Hare Evolve, but hopefully this is enough. And Lady Liadrin and Oasis Surger is not really the good stuff. That's low average.
Both below average.
You know, below average might be good enough to get you through my high school. It's really not cutting it here.
Reporting for duty.
He's going wide, though.
I got you, friend.
Real wide.
Yeah, real wide. And Monsanto picks up the Block Clock Stalker, the Bog Stalk Clocker, and he's going to be able to evolve some really impactful minions here, TJ.
So he can get a 10-drop and an 8-drop with trades from Flesh Shaper and Lady Liadrin. The other option is, well, the best option looks like Twilight Drake, Mogu Flesh Shaper, Lady Liadrin, or Mogu Flesh Shaper, Boxshot Clocker.
I wonder.
You're kind of stranding the Desert Hare, but it seems like the ideal evolve targets are the Lady Liadrin after it trades and the Flesh Shaper, because 8 and 10 are very powerful mana slots. And 4 obviously is quite weak, and what are the other two 1/1s going to be doing? So it looks like Twilight Drake, Mogu Flesh Shaper, Boxshot Clacker, or just Kronks and set up for a Galakron. Is his Galakron fully invoked? It is. His Galakron is fully invoked. So not going for Evolve at all. Instead, just trying to set up for a powerful turn 8 with 2 8/8s.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that at all.
That was definitely an unusual line. I was not expecting it, but it makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I think that's the winning line that Monsanto's been able to identify. We haven't been able to see the Bogstraw Clacker be consistent at all. And I think the average 4-drop has been very disappointing. Not to mention, this also still gives him options if Purple had the Zephyrs for some board clear opportunities, and he'd be able to immediately reload.
Yeah.
So this is very good recognition from Monsanto. He has 3 waves of threats queued up. The one, of course, that purple needs to deal with. And the second being the Galakron, which is very clearly in the hand for purple to see. And then the last is this heavy evolve package situation. Now, purple putting Monsanto into single digits. 2 swings of the Ashbringer is all it takes. So the life gain on the Galakron, gain that 5 armor, could
Also,
be
Zephyrus
difference maker.
Lethal at any turn here, nearly.
Yes, in the sense that having direct damage to close that gap if you're able to swing twice is big, but will purple get 2 opportunities is the question.
That was a lot of damage, but I think Monsanto is going to be trading a large portion of his board here. But he still will have a ton of damage set up.
Yeah, and Monsanto has to count here. He has 13 that he can push to face. Realistically, in his mind, is there a way for him to justify leaving up these 1/1s and push all damage that he can counter lethal swing?
The storm approaches.
Pretty sure no matter what, the weapon's going face. So he's just debating about these 2 minions.
Yeah.
So
is there anything that he would die to? It would be Zephyrus plus something else.
Right.
Because at 14 with 2 minions on board, I don't think he dies to anything.
Oh, wow. Purple could draw Consecration, though. That it?
I think that might be it.
Yeah, Purple's going to concede. Monsanto with a Game 1 victory. Once more, Shaman getting the big upset over Paladin, just because the matchups haven't been going the way of the Shamans. Heading into today, it was in the 30s, 30 percentages of wins against Paladin, and now it's gotten 2 wins today so far. Impressive stuff. I really like the way Monsanto navigated that. It kind of feels good to back up some of the hype that we were generating before the series, because heading into this, I'm sure the casual viewer who doesn't really immerse themselves into the hardcore side of Hearthstone Esports might recognize Purple, right? Got recently signed by Team Liquid, has been a prominent streamer for a while, has 2 World Championship appearances under his belt. So, of course, you'd be like, yeah, Purple should just be the guy that we expect to make it to Division A. But Monsanto very quietly has put on a streak of consistent performances, and everyone talks about the region's best performers points-wise throughout the years. It's Muzzy and Sand, right? Muzzy, number 1, number 2. Sand was like top 5, top 2, top 1. In third place, like almost every year, was Monsanto.
Yeah.
And people no one really talked about him very much. And he is very, very consistent and very good at Hearthstone. He's been grinding nonstop since the expansion started.
Yeah, and one of the big things is alongside of that, I'm pretty sure he's also had that range of finishes even in actual Grandmasters. He did have playoff appearances, but lost in the first round of playoffs each time. So in Grandmasters Season 1 and Season 2. So always the bridesmaid, never the bride. That's Monsanto's last year summed up. But he's looking for that kind of big breakout, and Division A would give him a better chance of doing that. And just to talk about it slightly more, deviations from what you'd expect as the standard lines in any given situation in that Shaman game were kind of the difference maker there. I don't think if he goes for a huge evolve that previous turn that he would set up enough of a threatening board to be able to have time to Kronks and then Galakron. So the Tyrion would have come down. He would not have had an answer to it except for trading minions in. And then maybe in that world, Purple does get multiple swings of Ashbringer and does win that game. So just, small things like that end up being the difference maker.
Honor.
And the difference between a win and a loss in Shaman versus Paladin. And now we get the Druid.
Now we get the
versus
Druid.
Paladin.
Yes, and this is a good opening hand for Purple, but TJ, I have to say that I think Sir Finley of the Sands on curve has not been anywhere near as impactful as I expected. And, people were so worried about Finley being impactful on curve that they were liking it to the days of Prince Keliseth. When Savers of Olddoom expansion was being first revealed, everyone was like, oh wow, Prince Keliseth's back in the metagame, just have to play Sir Finley on curve. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Sir Finley's win rate, I'm sure, is much higher when you play it on 2, but it does not feel nearly as oppressive as the Keliseth decks that just like put out crazy stats. And of course, people also forget that those Keliseth days were also backed by cards like Corridor Creeper, which were absolutely bonkers. And that's what really helped catapult that deck into just absurdity. That being said, this could be a matchup that makes the Sir Finley look great, and Soul Tap is a great choice. Like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like Sir Finley on 2 is a bad card. It's not. It's just not as insane as people hyped it.
Yeah. Oh.
Wait.
So Kael'thas is ditched,
no.
but he picks up Innervate. So he can actually coin Innervate Glowfly Swarm, and he would have still a full board of Glowfly Swarms, or 6. He would have 6. Because he has 9 cards, all spells. He would spend 2, then play the Glowfly Swarm, so he'd have 6. So we can see on board that 2 of them would die. His other option is to try to pick apart this board, but it really doesn't have much going for him. He has a Crystal Power and a Moonfire as far as removal goes, which won't chew through much. Problem is he doesn't have follow-up. He has Savage Roar, but if something gets picked apart, Savage Roar loses value. He doesn't have like Soul of the Forest or Power of the Wild. He doesn't have Ramp. He does have card draw in the form of Rising Winds, and then obviously eventually the Overflow. But is the 6 Glowflies enough to warrant coin and Innervate usage?
Time waits for no one.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I think you have to answer the board presence. This is clearly like an opportunity for your opponent to snowball. And Purple has to answer this board. He can't just really develop as nicely as he'd like. The Hand of Vidal is a nice pickup, though.
Yeah, so still some decent ability to trade down. Only 3 Glowflies left for Monsanto. Purple's just worried about follow-up. And, well, Bees is follow-up. Monsanto could go for, like, Bees, Crystal Power, Moonfire. To clear off everything but the Shotbot. That would preserve all of his Glowflies.
Yeah, well, his opponent clearly did not have Consecration. I think that was a very easy test there. So I think you can even be greedy with Bees. You could, for example, try to maximize your Bees board presence.
By using it on the Sir Finley?
Yeah, use it on Sir Finley, cleaning up the Shotbot second half board if you really want. But I think that's something to consider. I think that his hand still is lacking, though, because he doesn't actually have real bite to it besides Savage Roar. If he had Soul of the Forest, I would be convinced that's the play that he should make immediately. But right now, it's tough. I think you can convince me that he might just remove everything on the board here to stop Purple from snowballing. I still like the Bees, though.
Yeah. That's what he's going to do. So 5 minutes preserved on board.
Right.
He does have Rising Winds as a follow-up. So that is something to try and draw deeper into his deck. Oh, that's good. That's real good.
Yeah. I think that's also kind of refreshing, too, is that it seems like most of the players have adopted a slower and more conservative approach to using their round timers or turn timers here. Purple's still just kind of letting it fly, Casey style. And I appreciate that, given that, sometimes it just feels cool to watch someone play really fast, given that Hearthstone is a thinking man's game, and it tends to lead to people taking very long on complicated turns. However, at the same time, there's something really cool about having someone so bold and they're confident, and that confident in their plays, and kind of puts pressure back on their opponent. Like, well, you don't get as much time to think because you don't get to think during my turn.
Yeah.
Also, if we were to be very candid, Purple's played so many games where he knows how this works. He knows that the deck really tries to curve out and make sure that you're able to put on aggression. And Purple is at his best in two scenarios where he knows how to squeeze out points of damage and make his opponent uncomfortable doing it. And the second is counting fatigue scenarios. Doesn't seem like this is a fatigue meta, so Purple's, of course, trying to figure out every way that he can get onto the board and pressure his opponent while also making it difficult for them to do things.
Problem here for Purple is that he's kind of just out of stuff, and that's where the Soul Tap hero power could come in big. Just be able to kind of refill his hand.
He hasn't hero powered once, right?
No, but yeah, well,
he still won't.
He's still.
Oh,
wow,
okay.
Huh. I thought Skyclaw's Blessing of Kings was just the goods there, but I guess he still gets to develop here and maybe follow it up with the Skyclaw. But he has Pharaoh's Blessing too.
Right.
This is a lot of power put on board, and Monsanto. Oh wow. Okay.
Jeez.
Downseller,
oh my gosh.
Bog Beam, Iron
Wow.
Bark, Moonfire. He kills the Hungry Crab.
How dare you? This Hungry Crab got buffed through history lessons, has received the anointment of some of the strongest Paladin Kings in all of the history of Azeroth, and yet just dies to a couple of Bog Beams.
And not only that, he's also just getting fantastic beasts.
Yeah.
That's Zephyrus!
Well, I guess we know where to find these fantastic beasts. They're on Monsanto's side of the board.
Hey!
Zephyrus gets the Brawl. Is that about the only other card that he can... Can he manipulate Zephyrus another way to make it more mana efficient? What if Purple got greedy and he said, I want to Soul Tap and then play Zephyrus for Shadowward Ruin so that he gets an extra card? Is that too greedy?
Shadowward Ruin doesn't kill everything?
Yes. That is the only thing. But, like, you know, it's still somewhat of a manageable board. Oh, it's offered to him anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Monsanto's, unless exactly Exotic Mountseller survives here, Monsanto's out of waves of threats except for the second Blowfly Swarm.
Ooh. Dread Raven survives.
I think that's perfectly fine from Purple's perspective. Well, there's the last wave.
Right. Fungal Fortunes into the Glowfly Swarm.
He probably has to wait until Soul of the Forest
Right.
in order to use this Glowfly Swarm, because otherwise his Soul of the Forest would be pretty dead, because he only has Rising Winds as minion generation after this Glowfly Swarm is gone, because he's already used Kael'thas and the one exotic Mountseller, and Monsanto's not playing the Ysera Unleashed or Forestade. Well, I guess he could Bees onto like a 1/1.
True. I think I also favor the overflow in this position. Your opponent clearly wants to start tapping as well to draw cards, and you're going to draw 5 while they draw 1 next turn. Well, 2 off the top of their deck. Oh, Monsanto, did he draw a Zixer Prime?
I forgot the Zixer.
That is brutal. I think that was the one card that he was looking for to bring him back in, because he knows that this Glowfly Swarm is answered.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the Zixer as far as reload. So there was reload, and he threw it away.
Well, he discarded it.
Nah,
Not
he
by
threw
his
it
own
away.
volition.
He grabbed it out of his deck, and he chucked it as far as he could.
That's right. He dragged it, he threw it into the recycling bin and emptied it. Purple has the Tiamat. Tiamat isn't going to be answered easily.
Ooh,
Does he see an opportunity to develop something else instead? This looks like a pretty good Tiamat board opportunity. would probably favor Rush and Divine Shield, although I'm open to suggestions. Okay, so now that we've established that the Glowfly Swarm is our final wave of threats, what is the play? Overflow lets us draw 5 cards, and we still can play cards afterwards. I feel like that would be the line that we would have to choose, right? Because we have to get the Soul of the Forest, otherwise Glowfly Swarm doesn't have any real teeth. Finds the Soul of the Forest. I think Rising Winds for minion presence might also be something Monsanto considers here. It doesn't have Bog Beam anymore. And Wrath doesn't exactly do much. It does like present the idea of being able to kill his opponent's Tiamat if like Crystal Power and Moonfire came out. But I don't know if Monsanto has another Moonfire in his deck.
I don't believe so. I think his last 2 cards are Power of the Wild and Rising Winds.
Wow! Tyrion hits the board. Or rather, can hit the board. Purple also can go wide here, but I think if I'm in Purple's position, I really like the idea of pressuring my opponent as best as I can. It might not even be Tyrion. It could be like the Pharaoh's Blessing plus the Sandwasp Queen.
I was going to say, Pharaoh's Blessing and Sandwasp Queen does kind of weirdly set up for almost a 2-turn lethal. I guess not quite, because he wouldn't be taking a Tick of Fatigue yet.
Right, but Monsanto goes for the Glowfly Swarm and Soul of the Forest, and still going to be struggling.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have any taunts. The good news is, though, if he can play Gift of the Wild, he can get there. He has to just work. He has to just kind of factor in if he's going to die or not. So there's 12 power presented. If your opponent plays Pharaoh Blessing, that's 16 damage. They've already used the Angling Rod, so they don't have that 3 other damage source. Consecration's only 2.
True Silver.
It would have to be True Silver Champion. Blessing of Kings already has been used as well. So yeah, it looks...
Oh no, Zephyr's been used.
Yeah, Zephyrus has been used. It looks like there's an opportunity for Monsanto here. Still do it. Glowfly Swarm, Soul of the Forest, Crystal Power. And do you like the choice of healing himself as opposed to dealing damage to the board?
Yeah, because that cuts off True Silver Champion, Pharaoh's Blessing as a way to kill him. Though it does mean that he has a tougher time potentially getting through Tyrion next turn. But I mean, Gift of the Wild is it, right? He has no Savage Roar. He's got Gift of the Wild and Power of the Wild, and that's essentially his last 2 means of buffing up this board. So then what does Purple do? Because Purple knows all the information. He knows exactly what Monsanto has because he'll draw his last card. Right. He knows that Gift of the Wild will be in hand. He knows what removal is remaining, and he knows what buffs are remaining. So for him, with what Monsanto's going to do is essentially a solved situation, and he has to think what's his best course of action to deal with that.
Right.
He needs to buff outside of the
I got you, friend.
outside of the range of what his opponent wants to be doing, and he's hoping that this Divine Shield and the taunts will make it harder for Monsanto to get through. These Glowfly Swarms can be sequenced in several different ways. He could trade all of them and then gift the Wild defensively. He can try to use Power of the Wild offensively and then gift the Wild to go for full force of trades. He can also do what Gallon does, which Gallon likes to split some of his minions and not because he knows of the threat of cards like Waste Warden. But I think in Monsanto's mind, he is going to play with the idea that his opponent doesn't have the proper response. You have to set up 2-turn lethal here.
Yeah.
I like it.
The Wild, Power of the Wild, and Iron Bar cleanly gets through these and also pushes 10?
Time waits for no one.
Yeah.
Unless he wants to clear off these minions.
I think I was slightly concerned about this possibility from Purple's side, which was he might have wanted to buff the Tiamat to 12 just to make the 5 attack breakpoints a little harder to deal with. Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, that is a potential bailout, but Purple needs something dramatic.
At this point, I don't even know. Even if he gets Deathwing, I guess there's only 6 power left on board.
Right. Oh, Craze Netherwing?
Still
That's not enough, though.
Yeah. Actually, surprisingly close to just Craze Netherwing. Not that close, really, I suppose.
Yeah, there's more than enough power on board. Purple concedes. Monsanto up 2-0. Scary moment, as we have seen Dragon Queen Alexstrasza bring back players from the depths of the abyss, and we've seen some crazy comebacks even as recently as yesterday with Sand versus PNC. And now Monsanto 1 game away from going to the finals, getting a spot in Division A, and denying Purple that late run comeback because for reference, Purple started off really rough in the Swiss and then picked up results and now has landed himself an opportunity. He's at the doorstep of potentially earning a Division A berth.
Yeah, and it comes down to his Paladin or his Hunter. And I imagine the deck of choice would be Hunter. His Paladin is of the Murloc variety. And there's quite a few Hunger Crabs still left on Purple's side. 3 of his decks have the Hunger Crab in it. So we shall see if Monsanto can close it out. But when you have to rely on Hunter, which has been the most successful deck so far throughout not only the Swiss rounds, but also throughout this top 8, and you only have to win once with it with 3 tries, pretty good odds, I'd say.
Yeah, those are great odds. Purple going to turn to his Spell Druid, try to see if he can turn the momentum a little bit. Druid versus Hunter has been kind of middling, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, Druid isn't unwinnable. It's not an unwinnable matchup for Druid.
The next level play for Monsanto would be he expects the Druid from Purple
to play his Paladin.
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But
no, it's Hunter.
Yeah, it's Hunter.
Protect the wild.
It's a good move from Purple. Give himself a chance to get the Druid through without having to be exposed to Paladin.
Yeah.
At the same time, Paladin win rate versus Druid hasn't actually been that significant. Paladin's actually been surprisingly even in its matchups. The exception being that Paladin has been picking up a lot of wins versus Shaman and losing all their games versus Priest pretty much. So that's why it's kind of balanced 50-50. Also losing a pretty good chunk to Hunter as well.
Tracking on 1.
Tracking on 1. Scavenger's Ingenuity is particularly intriguing to me because I wonder if that's just like too much stats for Druid to fight back upon.
Yeah, taking a look at the beast in his deck. We have Hungry Crab, Diving Griffin, Zixer, and that's it.
Yep.
But decides to go with the on-curve play of Evasive Feywing. He could play Fairy Dragon, then roll that into Primordial Explorer, and then Evasive Feywing. So,
wow. I really like this play for Purple. Coin Power of the Wild. This is a play that wasn't obvious at all. It still isn't, right? Like, if you look at what Monsanto does, like, well, doesn't his 3/2 just trade into a 2-drop? But that's exactly why, because the threat of Fairy Dragon. He can't interact with it in any other way except for a minion. He doesn't. I mean, I guess he could hero power it down over the course of a few turns, but he's clearly not going to do that with Fungal Forges in hand.
yeah.
So this was a brilliant decision from Purple to make sure to get ahead of Fairy Dragon, because that is one of the hardest cards to deal with as a second. One of the one level above that is, can you deal with an evasive Fellwing? Look at Monsanto. He's actually not going to play his Fairy Dragon, and he did have another option, but now if he does play Fairy Dragon, it is hard to contest. It would be off curve, though.
Would be off curve, but turn 3 is when Druid would want to like remove a minion.
You'd love to see it, TJ. This is some good Hearthstone being played right now.
This is some solid Hearthstone.
This is great. I know that it might seem a little strange because they are playing unusual. Ugh, Crystal Power can't interact with it, and you see a wasted card here from Druid, but it's necessary because Purple needs to have space in his hand in case he gets the Overgrowth next turn.
And the Evasive Fey-Wing is another card that Purple won't be able to interact with. Purple is, in all likelihood, maybe on a path towards Rising Winds for Eagles as his play next turn, because his hand is full. He doesn't have Innervate Glowfly Swarm. He doesn't have Overgrowth, unless he picks that up off the top.
Right. Monsanto also has a very unique play next turn, where he could actually Zephyrus...
Soul Cleave? Zephyrus Cleave?
And like Cleave. And that's not something that you often see Zephyrus do.
That's actually sick. Blazing Battle Mage, Zephyrus, and Cleave?
Yeah.
And push 8? With 13 power represented on board?
Mm-hmm. Usually you save...
I like it.
Yeah, usually you save Zephyrs for like the game-ending damage, or to wait to just be proactive, like, oh, I want to like play a Ban Cleave, or I want to like try and get Wild Growth. In this case, Zephyrus might just be like a 2-turn lethal setup.
It's close.
The other alternative would be if he chose to play very aggressive, and he could choose... Sometimes Zephyrus offers you Power of the Wild if you have a wider board. And Zephyrus can sometimes just make that really difficult. But at the same time, then his minions get challenged, so...
Sometimes, though, Zephyrus also offers you Voidwalker.
That's right. Sometimes Zephyrus does do that.
Monsanto, because of how weak Purple's plays have been, I think is worried about, since he's not setting up a 2-turn lethal, what happens if Purple plays Glowfly Swarm on 5 for a full board. And in that case, he needs the Zephyrus. So this still presents a pretty threatening board, but Monsanto has a check for just a Glowfly Swarm played. And it's Monsanto probably going to be relatively confused at the fact that there is no Glowfly Swarm. Purple just has kind of nothing. He's got all of his support cards and no ramp.
I don't think there's any lethal opportunity here, but
No.
trying to think. I mean, Zephyrus might realistically just offer him a swipe.
Yeah.
And I think that's not good enough. So he probably will keep in his back pocket. Zixer's a fine draw here. Purple's attack to face. Let's dissect that a little bit. So he's clearly like trying to present information to Monsanto and intimidate him in some capacity, because I think most logic would dictate that you want to trade into this Fairy Dragon, since you are getting pressure in your life total and you have so many cards and you can out-resource your opponent. However, what is Purple trying to say by attacking the face here instead of trading with that?
I want you to hit my face so that way I get Soul of the Force value. But Monsanto also wants to be hitting face.
Right.
So that's the problem. And Monsanto's winning that battle.
Oh, even better than swipe. It's a consecration.
Yeah. And now Monsanto's okay to use the Zephyrus, because even if Purple had gone with Glowfly Swarm, he would be setting up a 2-turn lethal. And I'm pretty sure that was a
bottom right quit. That wasn't even a bottom right concede. Purple looks like he has effectively conceded here, because
Monsanto can't exit the game yet. Because
Yes.
he has to wait for the admin ruling that he gets a game
Right.
win.
But
That's
it seems like for the most part, Monsanto is 100% guaranteed. Like I think if he like purple removes and crystal powers, he might be alive at like 1. But I
Yeah.
mean, he's really not winning that game. So Monsanto, there you have it, is our winner, and 3-0. But we'll wait for the actual admins. I don't think I should declare that just yet. A little bit of an awkward situation there, and two things to break down. Those first few early turns was really cool to just kind of tap into the mindset of the players. Monsanto is playing very well today. I think that is excellent recognition. Both of his games on Shaman and his Hunter have been fantastic. And overall, like I'm just really happy to see him make it Division A. Kind of sad for Purple, obviously. He's a friend of mine and would love to see him in Division A. But at the same time, Monsanto is like one of the best players in Americas for a few years now. And it's only fitting that he's in the top 8.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you got the most amount of points or you barely snuck in. At the end of the day, once you're seeded into your division, your slate is wiped clean, and you get to start over for round robin. So Monsanto can just, pat himself on the back and say, you know what, I'm a Division A. Doesn't matter how close it was. Doesn't matter that I had to play a win and in on the final day of Swiss competition. I got there.
That's right. So with that, Monsanto is in as the last seed of Division A, although the seeds aren't going to truly matter because it's round robin. Everyone plays against each other, and the scores are wiped clean. But effectively, based off tiebreaker, for people who are wondering, Empanizado and PNC and Frozen were all tied at 8 points. Purple was at 7, but if Purple had won, he would have had the tiebreaker lead over them. Or at least over PNC, and he would have gotten that 8th spot, while Monsanto would have been denied that. And then now that Monsanto has won, PNC has slid down to the 9th seed, so rough for PNC. He's made it to 2 top 8s, 1 top 4, and still not making it to Division A. That's got to sting, and I think that might be a storyline we follow in Division B, a story of what ifs. If players are able to get one more point, one more win during Swiss to not place bottom 4, and that's going to be something to focus on in the coming weeks.
Yeah, definitely is, and I'm excited for that part of it, especially since our round robin is shorter this season than it was previous seasons, obviously because we split the season in 2. Essentially, one half was Swiss, and the next half is round robin. You get to play against every other player in the division once. There are best of 5s instead of best of 3s like we had in Season 1 and Season 2. But it's a single round robin. And it makes the tiebreakers a little bit less complicated because, the tiebreakers towards the end of like Season 2, the head-to-head tiebreaker is much more clean since they would only have played once. But that's all for future weeks. I like getting into tiebreakers, but we'll wait until week 7 to start talking about that stuff.
Sounds good. So we got a break just to give Monsanto a little breather before his final match. Remember, this final match, while not for division standings any longer, is for the money and also, of course, for the pride of calling yourself a tournament winner during the Swiss portion. So we're going to take our final intermission of the Swiss stage here of Hearthstone Grandmasters, period. And when we come back, we're going to have the finals between Monsanto and Nalgadon. Stay tuned.
Hearthstone Grandmasters is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.